Good morning, everyone. You are all muted now. Please stay muted throughout the service. You will probably want to adjust your Zoom screen to speaker view as we begin to welcome Yule by listening to our music director, David Chapman, play Carol of the Bells by Mykola, Leontovych. Thank you, David. Welcome to worship at Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church. As we begin, we take time to honor the Piscataway people of this area. Our church stands on their ancestral home. We understand that the Piscataway people wintered near the Paint Branch, not only to be near a source of fresh water, but because the low-lying area created a windbreak of protection during the winter. I am Tricia, one of the worship associates who plans services in collaboration with our church staff. Thank you for choosing to celebrate the solstice with us today. If you're using Zoom this morning, please find the microphone icon around the edge of your screen and be sure it has a diagonal line over it so you can remain muted throughout the service. To be able to see all the visuals, speakers, musicians, and all parts of the service, you will want to adjust your Zoom screen from gallery view to speaker view. Clicking on the bubble icon opens up the chat screen where you can read timely messages during the service from our Assistant Church Administrator, Philip Brown. Right now, I invite you to type into chat how many people are viewing from your screen. Please type 1 if it's just you. Later in the service, you will be invited to use the chat feature to post your joys and sorrows. At the end of today's service, you can choose to remain on Zoom to join me and the worship participants in reverberations about the service. Or you can choose the option of joining a small breakout room to chat with others. If you are a regular attendee of breakout rooms at Paint Branch, please be sure to welcome and introduce yourself to anyone you don't already know. During worship services in our sanctuary, we invite our visitors to stand up so we can make a point to meet with them during the coffee time following the service. Our chat rooms provide the opportunity for visitors to be warmly welcomed into conversation with others who attend regularly. The Social Action Committee invites us to contribute to their special collection for Community Crisis Services Incorporated, known as CCSI. At this time, Philip Brown will provide information in chat about how you can make a contribution. Your donations will help CCSI assist families in crisis in this difficult time. For over 50 years, CCSI has been providing access to mental health services, transportation to job interviews, food, and housing for families and people in need. This year, because of the pandemic, Paint Branch is not able to provide warm nights, overflow shelter, and meals in our sanctuary. But the needs for food and shelter have increased. You can learn more about CCSI by visiting their website, www.communitycrisis.org. Checks can be mailed to CCSI, P.O. Box 149, Hyattsville, Maryland, 20781. The Social Action Committee records the results of their special collections. To do this, they ask that if you make a donation, please email Carmelita Carter Sykes or Kathy Bartolomeo. Their email addresses appear in chat. I want to remind you that Paint Branch worship services appear on our YouTube channel. You can go to YouTube and search for Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church to see a worship service you missed or one that you wish to see again. Unfortunately, Abby Hanley is unable to participate in this service as planned because of unplanned health issues. We wish her a speedy recovery. Today, Penney Hughes will be reading for Abby Hanley. Penney?
During the winter solstice, we lift our hearts to the sky and yearn for the return of the sun. In this season of shifting light, we contemplate gifts of stillness. This service honors all things restful, dormant, and deep. We reflect upon the myriad ways we experience the divine and anticipate the coming light. Here at Paint Branch, we welcome diverse groups of pagan experience, Wiccans, Druids, pagans. Here at Paint Branch, we also welcome those who respect and revere nature as solitaries, individuals who find inspiration in private appreciation of nature.
Thank you, Penney. Hello, everyone. My name is Eldritch. I'm a member here at Paint Branch. All Unitarian congregations affirm and promote 7 principles, which we hold as strong values and moral guides. And we evolve with society and are considering an 8th principle that affirms and actualizes diversity, inclusion, and intersectionality. Individuals who are UU live out these principles within a living tradition of wisdom and spirituality, drawn from sources as diverse as science, poetry, scripture, and personal experience. UU congregations also affirm and promote 6 sources that reflect diversity and inclusion of spiritual traditions: the mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, the prophetic voice of people challenging us to confront powers and structures of evil, wisdom from the world's religions, along with the teachings from Christian and Jewish sources. We also draw from all world religions. Humanist teachings, which counsel us to heed the guidance of reason and science. And most important to pagans and those from nature spirituality perspectives, UU churches recognize the spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Now, Cerridwyn Peerman and her mother, Angela Peerman, will light our chalice. Carrie?
Hi. This solstice, in honor of ancient traditions that celebrate this time of longest night, we light our chalice and reflect on the light we need to guide us through hard times. The light of our shared faith, the light of loving community, the light of love, joy, and hope. Please join me in repeating the words of our unison chalice lighting. We light the chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind, the helping hands, the loving heart, and the radiant spirit.
Encendamos este caliz para celebrar el Unitarismo Universalismo. Esta es la iglesia de la mente abierta, de las manos amigas, del amor del corazón y del espíritu radiante.
And now we will hear from Fallon Hughes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Fallon Hughes, and I'm a participant of the RE program. At this time, I would like to share with you some art that was created for Winter Solstice by Caroline Lentz and Kathy Darlington. These paintings speak of the wonder and beauty we experience when we are blessed to gaze into the night sky and see the northern lights. As long as humans have walked the earth, they have gathered together during the dark seasons to celebrate light. They have stood hand in hand and looked to the sky and marveled at the beauty of the light. May we always remember that there is solace in the dark and that the light will soon return. Blessed be.
Thank you, Fallon. It was in 1995 that the Unitarian Universalist Association formally acknowledged the sixth source of our faith, which bears repeating. Spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions, which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Here at Paint Branch, the winter solstice has been celebrated in many ways over the years, including in worship services during Reverend Diane Tigert's ministry. This year, winter solstice occurs tomorrow at 5:02 a.m., when we will experience just 9 hours, 26 minutes, and 19 seconds of daylight. Instead of considering the darkness fearful or gloomy, winter solstice is celebrated as a time of hopefulness, reverence, joy, and revelry. The hopefulness is about the promise of increasing daylight. At this time, when the deciduous trees have shed their colorful leaves, the evergreens remind us that life continues. We decorate with female hollies because their ripe berries bring us joy. The pine and the juniper and the balsam that we bring indoors intoxicates us with their vigorous fragrance. We form their branches into rings to remind us that the cycle of darkness is merely a part of the turning wheel. The turning wheel that inevitably moves us forward toward the time of increasing growth, abundance, and brightness. For me, the reverence of the winter solstice has to do with the fact that this is the time of year when the stars in the night sky appear brightest. As Earth journeys around the sun, there are more bright stars visible in the northern hemisphere during the winter because the air is drier and cooler. The humid atmosphere of other seasons creates relative haziness for stargazing, but during the solstice, we have clarity. I welcome the joyful experience of gazing into the dark night sky because of its sharp contrast with sparkling, distant suns. During this darkest, colder time of year, Many of us typically warm ourselves in the cheer of gathering closely with others for revelry. This year, we focus on health as we sacrifice the joy of sharing physical closeness with loved ones outside our households. It may be more important than ever this year to remember the turn of the earth, the turn of life's wheel, ever moving us forward. Nature reminds us that seasons inevitably change, so we can choose to rejoice that we will move forward into another time. In the year of 2020, is it possible for us to come together to make some space for our feelings about what we wish to leave behind so that we can move into a place of relative peace? As the solstice time approaches, we face great turmoil in a year marked by so much distress for our community, for our nation, and for our world. Can we appreciate that the natural phenomenon of the winter solstice means that each day from the solstice onward will bring more sunlight? Can we find ways to bring more light and love to each other and into our own lives? How will we create more hope after a year of so much despair and so much loss? Before we move forward into the light, perhaps we need to first acknowledge what we leave behind in this year of 2020. As we listen to Diana McFadden's cello playing Green Groweth the Holly, an English tune from the 16th century, you may wish to write into chat your current joys or your current sorrows. You may wish to acknowledge losses that you have endured during this difficult year before we welcome the return of the sun. Please share with our community your joys and sorrows in chat at this time. Diana? this moment of quiet, may our hearts be open to hope and healing. May our minds be open to peace and possibility.
A circle is cast, not by what we exclude, but by what we include. A circle is cast to create sacred space for us to come together and connect with the divine. It is cast with love and understanding. It is cast so that we may find what we seek together. It is cast with gladness and hope for what we look forward to in the coming days. And so, we all together cast this circle, heart to heart, home to home. So mote it be.
As we move to the next slide, Mason, will you begin the calling of the divine?
We call to the masks of the divine, appearing as the male gender. We call to Pan, who is wild, bold, and loving. Welcome, Pan.
We call to the mask of the divine, appearing as a female gender. We call to Gaia, who is strong, stable, and giving. Welcome, Gaia.
We call to the mask of the divine, appearing as all gender. We call to Janus, bringing perspective, transition, and change. Welcome, Janus.
We call to the mask of the divine as appearing beyond gender. We call to spirit, fluid and ever present. Welcome, spirit.
We honor the past. We remember the ancestors, those who have built our world, passed away in loving care of friends, family, and those who passed alone, those who have lost their lives around the hands of others. Our hearts go out to people who have died this year and are our new ancestors. We honor our ancestors of birth and choice and spirit. We honor the past.
And now we will hear Allison Hughes play Dark of Winter.
Dark of winter, soft and still, your quiet calm surrounds me. Let my thoughts go where they will, ease my mind profoundly, and then my soul will sing a song, a blessed song of love eternal. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. Darkness, soothe my weary eyes, that I may see more clearly. When my heart with sorrow cries, comfort and caress me, and then my soul may hear a voice, a still small voice of love eternal. Darkness, when my fears arise, let your peace flow through me.
Hi, my name is Diane Teichert. I was the minister of Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church from August 2009 to my stroke in April 2014. Last May, you voted for me to be your minister emerita, which was a great honor for me. And I'm honored again this morning to be with you for this winter solstice service. You know, this time of year, I sometimes feel like a Grinch, annoyed by my neighbors who put up strings of holiday lights as if to scare away the dark at this deeply reflective time of the longest nights. This year, they are even putting strings of lights on the bare branches in their backyards, even my backyard neighbors. So when I look out my back windows, I see trees lit up in what should be the dark. Maybe this has happened in 2020 because most of my neighbors are working from home, and with no commute, they have more free time for decorating. Or maybe it's a way to lighten the depression all around and within us this particular year. With that thought, perhaps I should let go of my annoyance. Still, along with the song we just sang, I love the dark of winter. Gentle darkness, soft and still, bring your quiet to me. So did the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke, who lived from 1875 to 1926, whose poem I will read. He may be familiar to you as the author of the quote, "Live the questions now." Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answers. Let me set the stage for the poem. Sitting around a campfire in the dark, maybe in the glen at the church or in the woods somewhere, sitting around the circle of large rocks that contain the leaping flames with friends or family, sitting on the ground, on logs, or in camp chairs. What happens is, the flames light up the faces of those you love, and maybe the closest trees, but the woods beyond what the flames light up recede into the darkness. That may be the scene that gave rise to the poet Rilke's musing, "You darkness, as translated by the white American boomers such as myself, Anita Barrows, and Joanna Macy. You darkness of whom I am born, I love you more than the flame that limits the world to the circle it illumines and excludes all the rest. But the darkness embraces everything, shapes and shadows, creatures and me, people, nations, just as they are. It lets me imagine a great presence stirring beside me. I believe in the night. And to let it sink in, I'll read it again. You darkness of whom I am born, I love you more than the flame that limits the world to the circle it illumines and excludes the rest. But the darkness embraces everything, shapes and shadows, creatures and me, people, nations, just as they are. It lets me imagine a great presence stirring beside me. I believe in the night. Let us honor the dark.
Honor the dark as you do the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the dark as you do the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the dark as you do the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the dark as you do the light. Receive the gifts that come to us by day and by night. I choose to honor the dark, uncertainty and change. Deliver us from fear until only love remains. Honor the dark.
Fallow. The land lies fallow this time, when the pen runs to nothing, the ink dries in its pot, and we rest our hands. The land lies like a dark bird fallen from the sky, resting summer wings. The new sun rises from her fallow frame, bare, brighter than the old, but fresh in hope. We stir in the grip of winter's long rest, find comfort in the sheltering dark, but dream of crocus spears thrusting through dark soil and warm sun on the earth's stiff bones. Now is the time for planning, resting, dreaming. 3 seasons do we venture forth, wings spread and eager, but now we sleep. And this little waking, this slow return of light, brings sweet dreams to follow.
And now we will ask Diana McFadden to unmute to play us a traditional English tune, The Holly and the Ivy.
Thank you, Diana. That was absolutely lovely. My family celebrates Christmas, and I get together with them to share food and company, if only by Zoom this year. But personally, my spiritual path stopped being Christian 30 years ago. My beliefs now are nature-centered, rooted in the natural, scientific world, mixed with some of the old North European beliefs. The first day of winter, called winter solstice, is what's most meaningful for me about this time of year. I celebrate the longest night of the year, the depth of the dark and night, and the start of the cold winter. Tricia spoke about how the stars are brighter for scientific reasons, and I've always noticed that the stars seem brighter in the winter. And I love the rich velvety darkness of the night sky. My soul does hear a still small voice and sing when the quiet calm of the soft, still dark of winter surrounds me. And a short day with a long night means more time to curl up with a good book. But I don't much really like cold weather. So I find it reassuring that just as winter begins, the Earth's tilt starts taking in more minutes of sunlight again. The Earth seems to know that it will help to have more light and whatever added warmth the sun can send us through those coldest days of winter. This added sunlight feels to me like a gift that brings kindness and comfort and the promise of hope and of spring to come. Many world traditions and our Unitarian Universalist sources celebrate a light in the world that comes as a much needed blessing of comfort to help us through the hard times. Christians celebrate the birth of the Son of God. The Jewish Hanukkah holiday is also about light. It celebrates the rededication of the temple after it was defiled by the Greeks. Although they only had enough oil for one day, it lasted for 8. To name just a few other examples, East Asians call it Dongji, Iranians call it Yalda night, and the Slavs call it Korochun. Most pagans, like me, speak of honoring the sun at solstice. And for me, this is also a time to honor the dark of the longest night. And that added sunlight blessing requires both the presence of the sun and action by Earth. So for me, it's a reminder that the dark and the cold are a necessary part of the cycle. And like Earth, I too must act, must choose to turn, to change, to keep moving, to check my tilt if I am to be warm and survive the cold winter. I wish us all a deep solstice, a warm Yule, and a glorious and merry whatever you celebrate. And so it is.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eldritch. I'm a member here at Paint Branch Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm also a member and an ordained clergy of Circle Sanctuary near Madison, Wisconsin. I'm really glad to be here to celebrate and to discuss the winter solstice. I think back and I remember the sun in the summer when it was strong and vibrant and life-giving. In modern times, advances of science and technology prevent and distract us from feeling the cycles of the dimming sun. But nature, the plants and animals remember. They rest and they burrow, awaiting the touch of the sun. Our winter poetry, music, prayers, and feasting won't cause the sun to return. Can you imagine if our merrymaking was responsible for the sun's return? Still, symbolically, it feels that the sun is farther away. We may fear that it would leave us. So we turn our minds and hearts to nature. We yearn for the sun's return. Listen as I offer this song to a familiar tune. Hail the blessed sun, shining dimly in winter, down from the regions of glory descend. Gathered we ask for thy blessed returning. Follow our yearning, enliven the land. Lo, for a guard the bright stars do attend thee. Come as in old times and lend us thine aid. Hail the blessed sun, shining dimly in winter. Come to our hearts where our bright hopes are laid. I ask that you take a breath with me. And that we have a blessing upon the returning of the sun, and we experience that return of hope together. I have one more thing to share. At the beginning of the service, we called the ancestors and the descendants, and we thank them for their presence. At the beginning of the service, we called the elements, the air, the fire, the water, and the earth, and we thank them for their presence. We also called upon the divine, embodied as female, as male, as all genders, and beyond gender. We thank the divine for their presence in our life. At the beginning of the service, we also created a moment of respite and magic as we cast a circle. And now, if you would, let's take the energy of this circle and bring it close to us. Take a breath with me. And together we release the energy of this circle as we return to our daily routines in our daily lives. Blessed be.
We choose to come to Paint Branch to worship together in difficult times, to celebrate holidays and holidays, holy days, and lots of days in our lives. Our worship services help us to think more broadly about people and customs and about different ways to recognize things of worth. Paint Branch is a place where we can comfort and be comforted, where we can challenge ourselves and each other to live into our UU values, where we can come to experience connection with each other and with all that is. At this time, we will receive the offering. You can make an online donation through Greens or by text as indicated in the chat bar, or you can mail donations to the church office. Our church depends upon the financial support of our members and friends. Please give as generously as you are able. Now, we will hear The Christians and the Pagans by Dar Williams.
Amber called her uncle, said we're up here for the holiday. Jane and I were having solstice, now we need a place to stay. And her Christ-loving uncle watched his wife hang Mary on a tree. He watched his son hang candy canes all made with red dye number 3. He told his niece it's Christmas Eve. I know our life is not your style. She said Christmas is like solstice and we miss you and it's been a while. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground the best that they were able. Just before the meal was served, hands were held and prayers were said, sending hope for peace on earth to all their gods and goddesses. The food was great, the tree plugged in, the meal had gone without a hitch, till Timmy turned to Amber and said, is it true that you're a witch? His mom jumped up and said the pies are burning, and she hit the kitchen, and it was Jane who spoke. She said it's true, your cousin's not a Christian, but we love trees, we love the snow, the friends we have, the world we share, and you find magic from your God, and we find magic everywhere. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground, the best that they were able. Now where does magic come from? I think magic's in the learning, 'cause now when Christians sit with pagans, only pumpkin pies are burning. Tried to do the dishes, her aunt said really no, don't bother. Amber's uncle saw how Amber looked like him and like her father. He thought about his brother, how they hadn't spoken in a year. He thought he'd call him up and say it's Christmas and your daughter's here. He thought of fathers, sons and brothers, saw his own son tug his sleeve, saying, can I be a pagan? Dad said we'll discuss it when they leave. So the Christians and the pagans sat together at the table, finding faith and common ground, the best that they were able. Lighting trees in darkness, learning new ways from the old, and making sense of history and drawing warmth out of the cold.
May our observance of the cycles of nature remind us to respect our earth, to appreciate her rhythms, and to live in harmony with each other. Blessed be. We will now see a video recording of the All Souls Church Unitarian Choir, directed by Jen Heyman. And now Carrie Peerman will extinguish the chalice.
We extinguish this candle, a companion through this service, and a reminder of the sun returning stronger day by day. Remember this welcome light when we return to gather again and light the chalice another day.
Thank you for worshiping with us this morning, and a special thank you to Philip Brown for his extraordinary efforts to make this morning's welcome Yule service and tonight's celebrating Yule service possible. At this time, we welcome you to stay here on Zoom for conversation and reverberations about the worship service, or you may choose to click yes on an invitation that will appear in your screen to join a breakout room.